Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining today's webinar, where we will be diving into CBSA Assessment and Revenue Management Services Release 2. We will cover the upcoming changes that you can expect with Release 2 going live on May 13th. So without further ado, let's get started. My name is Ann Meredith. I am the Senior Marketing Analyst for Customs Brokerage at UPS Supply Chain Solutions, and I'm excited to introduce today's speakers. First, we have Penny Moulton, who is the Director of Customs Brokerage and Compliance at UPS Supply Chain Solutions Canada. Penny works with multinational companies and stakeholders to assist them in navigating Canadian importing legislation. Penny holds a Bachelor of Business Administration degree from Yorkville University with CCLP, CCS, and CTCS designations. She currently sits on the Canadian Border Customs Consultative Committees with the Customs Border Service Agency. We also have Kathleen Singer, who is the Training Supervisor at UPS Supply Chain Solutions Canada Brokerage. Kathleen is involved with CARM and is the Supervisor for the Customer Training and Auditing team. Kathleen works closely with our customers to ensure compliance with current legislative guidelines. Kathleen holds her CCS designation. Before we get into the agenda, there's a few administrative updates. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available to everybody who registered for the event. We encourage participation and would like to ensure we answer all your questions, so please make sure you use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen at any point during the call. We'll try our best to answer your questions live on the call through the Q&A function, or if necessary, we will contact you privately after the call. For legal purposes, I'm going to read the following message verbatim, and then we'll be ready to start today's great content. This presentation is for informational purposes only. It does not constitute legal advice. Please consult with your own legal counsel for such advice. Do not rely on this information without performing your own research. Okay, now we'll turn it to the agenda. So Kathleen is going to start us off today with the CARM refresher, what it is, the importer process, functionalities, and the CARM Client Portal. Then Penny is going to discuss the changes that will take place and what you can expect once CARM goes live on May 13th. She will cover changes with the commercial accounting declaration, release to prior payment, billing cycles, transaction history, and statement summaries and payments. We got a lot to cover. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kathleen to get us started.
Thank you, Ann. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our CARM webinar. Today, we will review the CBSA Assessment and Revenue Management CARM Release 2 Go Live. First, we'll begin by explaining CARM. Most of you may be registered by now, but for those of you who are not, here's a brief introduction. What is CARM? CARM is a major Canadian government initiative. The CARM will allow clients to register and view their accounts through a secure self-service portal. CARM is mandatory for all commercial importers into Canada. It will introduce an electronic payment option for commercial clients directly to CBSA. We will discuss the payment options in further detail in this session. CARM provides a client-based accounting through business numbers, which aims at improving the information flow between CBSA and its clients. It will transform the agency assesses, collects, manages, and reports on import revenue and trade information. Now we will review the importer process. CARM applies to all commercial importers into Canada, including non-resident importers. All commercial importers must be registered with a Canadian business number for importing. It is important that you register and delegate access to your service provider. 3 important things to remember. All users will need to create a user account and link it to their portal business account. Commercial importers must register in CARM before May 13th. Importers must delegate authority to third parties who conduct business on their behalf. Now we will take a look at CARM phased approach to support adoption and new CARM functionalities. So as of now, the basic portal functionality, access, available to importers, importers including non-resident importers, custom brokers, and trade consultants. Account data, ability to manage account data and delegate authority to customs brokers. Payments, the ability to view statements of account and make electronic payments such as pre-authorized debit, credit card, etc. Self-service, a tool to help classify the goods. Rulings, the ability to request advanced rulings. Your service provider will be able to create a ruling within the portal. Then, as of May, the basic portal functionality, access, available to all CBSA clients, enrollment, the ability to register and enroll in CBSA commercial program. CAD, also known as the Commercial Accounting Declaration. The CAD will replace the current B3 and the B2. You will be able to submit new commercial accounting declarations in the portal. You will also have the ability to make corrections and adjustments directly on the portal. Notifications, customizable electronic notification options. Billing cycle, it is a harmonized billing cycle that aligns payments, due dates, and provides more times to make interest-free corrections. Now let's take a look at how to access the CARM Client Portal, also known as the CCP. This slide is a screenshot of the CARM Client Portal. Here you will click on the link to the login screen and begin creating your GC key to gain access to the portal where you will view your transactions, SOAs, etc. The CARM Client Portal can first be accessed through the CBSA website, and I recommend that you save the URL to your browser favorites for quick access. So on the home page, under Services and Information, you will see the login to the CARM Client Portal link. Then if you look up to your right, there's also a function to click to change the portal language. Next, we will take a look at further client portal functionalities. Set up my portal. Manage the access of employees and third-party businesses within the portal. Payments. Manage your payment options. Accounts and profiles. You will be able to view information about your personal profile as well as your program account or business. Declarations and financial information. View the commercial accounting declaration. Financial information. You will be able to view the financial transaction history, statements, and invoices of this program account. Rulings. Request, view, and manage your ruling request. Your service provider can create rulings on your behalf. And now I will turn it over to Penny.
Great. Thank you, Kathleen, and good morning, everyone. So I'm going to review the CARM timeline for Release 2 Go Live. So as Kathy mentioned, it's important that you're registered now and you delegate access to your service provider. And doing so will allow you to have release prior to payment for up to 180 days. And the reason CBSA are putting that into effect is because the bonds as electronic bonds are not available right now. If you get a bond today, it will have to be done electronically. And as I said, they're not ready yet from a CBSA standpoint. So what will happen is you're registered in the portal and your shipments will automatically be released. And then we will be able to account for them before you have the bond in place. Once the electronic bonds are in place, we'll be able to get a bond for you on your behalf, or you can get your bond. And I'll talk further about that as we move through the presentation. The one thing that's really important that I wanted to point out is a cutover period. So CBSA have announced the cutover period, and that's going to be either April 26th or 29th. We don't have a firm date at this point, to May 13th. So what does that mean for you? If you're registered in the portal, you're all set, everything's ready to go. We will continue to release your shipments the way as we do today. CBSA do not want to have the border clogged and not have shipments being released. So if for some reason that you're not registered in the portal by the cutover period, we will still be able to release your shipments, but it's important that as soon as possible on May 13th, when the portal comes back up, that you're able to register and delegate access so that we can account for your shipments. The portal will not be available during the cutover period, so you'll have no access to the portal. Nobody will, so it's important if you need any information from the portal that you're ready to go. Once the cutover period is over, we will then transmit all of the files, and they will be on CADs, the commercial accounting documents, which I will talk further about as we move through the presentation. And then CARM is slated to go live on May the 13th. So that's the magical day that CARM is finally going to be going live. So it's important in anticipation and to get ready for CARM Release 2 that you do a test payment through the portal to make sure everything's working the way that it should be. And I'll walk you through what that will look like in subsequent slides. Shipments, like I said, will still be released as usual. We'll release them using your business number the same as we do today. The difference is it will not be on the broker security. It will be released using your release prior to payment privileges that you have, and shipments will then be accounted for. As I said, if you're not registered and you register after the 13th, then that's when the time frame starts. So that's why I say up to 180 days. Because the portal will be down for more than 5 days and shipments will not be able to be accounted for, the late accounting penalties that would normally be applied will be waived by CBSA. Now, exactly what that will look like, CBSA will automatically waive them. I'm not sure if it's going to be an automatic thing or that they will show on your SOA. For example, they may show on your May SOA. And if that happens, you'll just have to pay your SOA at the end of the month, at the end of May, and then in June they will be credited. Payments cannot be made during the cutover period for pre-authorized debit or using credit or debit cards. But any payments that are made will be reflected on your account post go live. And as I said, the CARM portal won't be available during the cutover period. So now we'll talk a little bit about the commercial accounting document. So today it's on a B3 form, or how the goods are accounted for. If we do any corrections or adjustments, those are done on a B2 form. Those are, we're presenting those electronically, but it's all more of a manual process. In the future, it will be the CAD form will be used to account for the imported goods. And there are some changes to the CAD form. There are more fields that need to be completed. So we have been testing with CBSA, making sure that our systems are ready to go. So we're working through that, and we will be ready for CARM Go Live date. For any corrections, adjustments, and submitting CADs regardless of the type of shipments that you have coming into Canada. So as I said, the B3 and the B2, a lot of it is the process using paper. Things are submitted paper. It takes a long time to get response back from CBSA. And you have to send in a status request to get information about, what is the status of my B2s that were submitted. I can tell you that CBSA are working feverishly to get the B2s that have been submitted processed by the end of the year and or the end of April, and so that they are processed before CARM go live. It's important to note if you're under an audit right now with CBSA and there's time frame constraints, that you can still present, or we can still present on your behalf, the paper copies to make sure that those time frames are met, because we don't certainly want to wait and then it's over the time frame and you'll get AMPS penalties and late penalties and things like that. So we are watching those timelines closely and just making sure that things are submitted within the timeframes that they need to be. Now, from a CAD correction, the corrections are done electronically, and literally it could take minutes to process a correction. And I'll talk further about that as well. And we can also upload PDF documents and communicate through the portal. So in other words, if CBSA are requesting further information, anything like that, or you want to see the status, you can actually see that information in the portal. And we'll still be transmitting that information electronically, the same as we do today. So Customs have put in place what they call a correction period. And what that correction period is the ability to make electronic interest-free corrections to a CAD before the payment due date. So let me give you an example. You have a shipment that comes in, and CUSMA could be applicable to it, but you don't have the CUSMA certificate before the shipment is accounted for within the time frame. And then you get it after the fact, but it's before the payment due date. Essentially, that means that we can make a correction in our system and submit that to CBSA. And that would be known as a version 2 of the original CAD. Our system will automatically create the versions as a correction or an adjustment is done. And then once that is submitted and it's accepted, essentially that means by the payment due date, you may not have to be paying that amount of duty that you would have paid under normal circumstances. But because the CAD correction was accepted, the duty would automatically be removed from your statement of account at the end of the month. The adjustment period is anything that's been changed after the payment due date. So we'll be creating any kinds of adjustments or corrections after the payment due date is known as an adjustment. And we'll still use the correct legislation to ensure those are processed. But it happens in a similar way. We'll submit them electronically. And if CBSA want further information, then we can upload that information into the portal. So now we're going to talk about release prior to payment. So release prior to payment is where you would get the goods released before you actually have to pay the duties and taxes. The goods will be released on your business number and then accounted for on your business number. And those shipments will show up on your statement of account at the end of the month. The statement of account is found in the CARM Client Portal. But really what it's doing is deferring the accounting for the goods and deferring the payment for the duties and taxes. And you'll no longer be able to use your broker's written security agreement to participate in the release prior to payment. So in other words, you will need to get a bond or some kind of security with CBSA after the 180 days. So obviously, once the electronic bonds are available, then you can start to get your bond so you're ready to go, and there's no lull in your shipments coming in and getting cleared properly and timely. There's also the option to pay on using a cash entry. So what that means is when the shipment arrives, you would pay the duties and taxes before the shipment gets released. I know many of you on this call do not want to have to go and pay duties and taxes for your shipment in order to get it released. So that obviously is not an option that you would like to worry about. So there are a couple of options for in order to have your release prior to payment. I'm going to say after the 180 days, but obviously we want to make sure that it's put in place before the 180 days. But there is an option to do a deposit. So you could do a deposit on your account, and it would sit as a guarantee against your account. So if you had $10,000 sitting on your account, you would have your release prior to payment for duties and taxes up to $10,000 on a monthly basis. And if you decide that, you know, you're doing the deposit and it doesn't make sense any longer, once you decide that you want to withdraw from that and maybe go into a bond, that's something that you can do as well. The other option is a written security agreement from a financial security provider. For example, a bond, an electronic bond. You could also get something from your bank. There are different options available, but again, they're not. The electronic bond is not quite ready yet. So once you're set up and you have your bond in place, you'll get a notification or alert through the portal when your account is approaching the financial security limit of 75%. So I just want to bring this to your attention and caution you, because if it's close to the end of the month and you know you'll be making a payment, you know, in the next couple of days, then you don't need to increase your bond. And the other thing is maybe you're bringing in a large shipment that has large duty and taxes on it, and that's a one-time thing, and you know that. So just really understanding your business and knowing how much financial security that you'll need. Obviously, if suddenly you're a lot busier than what you anticipated, then that would be the time that you would need to increase your financial security. And you can monitor your financial security utilization. That's in the portal as well, and be able to see, you know, where you are overall from the amount of duties and taxes that you have owing. So CBSA will continue to review compliance. And so, as you know, today, most things presented is done paper or it's electronic. It's on the broker's security. So CBSA, they have the access to the information, but it's not as readily or easily available. So what that means is if, you know, you're bringing goods in, customs have the benefit to be able to pull that information and see, you know, if there's any discrepancies or any questions around the tariff classification or, you know, origin or anything like that. So it's important to make sure from a compliance standpoint that you've got everything in place. Customs will potentially send what they call targeted compliance interventions. So what their tools, and it's a trade advisory notice, a directed compliance letter, or a compliance validation letter. And those are usually focusing on one or two shipments that customs have a question about, and they'll send it to you, request, asking for further information. The trade advisory notice, you do not need to respond to, but I highly recommend if you get one that you do respond. And the other two, you have to respond within 30 days. So it's important from a compliance standpoint that you understand what your tariff classification is, and that you're classifying the goods correctly from the different suppliers that you have. And if you need help with tariff classification, that's something that we can help you with as far as building up your database and making sure that it's correct. And as Kathy mentioned, we can request a tariff classification on the CARM Client Portal for a ruling. So as far as calculating the security requirement, you can actually see this information on the portal. But what you'll do is you take a year's worth of data, and then you take the highest month. And for this example, the highest month is $42,394.28. You divide that by 2, and then you would get a bond for $25,000, which is the minimum customs bond requirement. The maximum is $10 million. And if you use a cash security, say you don't want a bond for whatever reason, you decide that you want cash security, that's actually 100% of the amount, of the highest amount. So from a cash flow standpoint, does it make sense to put the cash on account with CBSA and then be able to have your release prior to payment privileges in effect? So if you do that and have that in effect, then at the end of the month, when your statement of account comes out, you actually pay that individual, or you pay that separately, and the cash remains on account with CBSA. So again, from a cash flow standpoint, you'll have to look at that and see what makes the most sense from your business. I will say to you that, and this isn't something that's in effect yet, but I can tell you that it's something Customs is looking at, and that is to decrease the minimum bond to $5,000. So again, that is not in effect yet, and it's something that Customs are looking at. So I just wanted to let you know that. So we're going to talk about billing cycles. So as you can see, there's different types of importers depending on what type of importer that you are into Canada. There's the cash clients, the regular commercial stream, the courier low value shipments, CSA, option 1 or option 2, and then your continuous transmission commodities. So we'll talk a little bit about each one. But for the regular commercial stream, as I said earlier, the CAD is due 5 business days after release. Hence, during the cutover period, Customs are going to waive the penalties because we will not be able to account for the goods 5 business days after release. But generally speaking, that's when they're due. So we will release the shipment and then account for them within the 5 days to prevent any penalties from occurring. I also want to point out here that the low value shipments, less than 3,300, that are not courier low values, are also due 5 business days after release. And that is a change under CARM. So previously or today, they have the same option as the courier low value shipments, but that again is changing to 5 business days after release. So the statement of account is issued always the 25th of month 2 for all goods released between the 18th of month 1 to the 17th of month 2. So we'll talk more about that. The courier low value shipments are all due the 24th of month 2. So I know today some courier low value shipments are coming in and they don't have maybe any paperwork. There's things missing and you're requested to provide the information. In most cases today, CBSA are not applying penalties to CLVS for late accounting. They will be applied automatically under CARM. The CSA option 1 or option 2, they are due, they have until the payment due date, and they would, we would submit the CAD information for the CSA customers. And then the continuous transmission commodities, it's the 24th of month 2, the same as the CLVS. The statement of account is always issued on the 25th of the month. And so you have 10 weekdays after the 17th of month 2 to make your payments. So from the 17th, 10 weekdays, that's when the payment is due. And then the correction period, as I said earlier, is from the CAD submission date to the payment due date. And then the adjustment period is after the payment due date. So I like pictures, and I find it easier to explain the billing cycle. So in this case, the goods are released on the 19th, and the CAD is due on the 26th, which is 5 days later. And the statement of account is due on, or is issued on the 25th, and the payment is due on the 31st in this example. What I can say as well is sometimes there may be a holiday close to the end of the month, so the payment may not be due right at the very end of the month. CBSA may push it to be due at the first of the following month, and they would send communication out prior, and that information would be available to you so you understand when the payment is due. It's the importer's responsibility to pay the full amount due on the statement of account, and that's why previously when I was talking about the penalties, if you get your May statement of account and there are penalties on there, you need to pay your full statement of account. And then in June, those penalties, which are a result of the cut over, would automatically be waived for the June statement of account. So we'll talk about the transition or transaction history and the statement summary. All right, so this is actually a screen print from the portal, just to give you an idea. So on the top right's the business account, and if you've got several RM accounts, you can pick the one that you want to look at, but this will have the information. So for the transaction history, you can see a live history of the transactions that can be viewed. Your statement of account, you can view that, and for each month. And then any CBSA invoices. So if you have any AMPS penalties, and a K-23, anything like that that's outside of the normal normal duties and taxes would be under CBSA invoices. So it's important from a record keeping standpoint that you have copies of like your CBSA invoices, your statement of account, your commercial accounting documents. You put those maybe on a shared drive in your company or somewhere where they're readily available in order that you could see, be able to see them or pull them during a customs audit, or just for your own information so that you have it. CBSA are going to be keeping the CADs and that information in the portal, but from a record keeping standpoint, it is not a method of record keeping. So you will need to pull that information. Any commercial invoices or anything like that are not available on the CARM Client Portal. So you would get those, you know, if it's done electronically or from your supplier or from, you know, depending on how you receive your billing, that type of thing, you would be able to have that information. So this is actually the statement summary, which will detail the payment is due and the payable balance. So as you can see, it's got the summary information all listed, and then multiple transaction types are displayed on the statement summary. The statement of account itself has shows any payments made. So it would show the previous month's payments, any interest that's owing, any credits that you have on your account, if there's any disbursements issued, any CAD adjustments, and then any corrections, which were before this SOA generation date. So it's very difficult, I would find anyway, to pay a statement of account that just showed totals. So you could pull the transaction details. However, it would be time consuming and very cumbersome. If you're looking for a reconciliation that's got individual transactions, that's something that we are able to provide. If that's something you're interested in, you can let us know. So like I said, the transaction history report would include any account balances, and it also includes any open debits or credits, payable balances, and it shows the release date and the billing accounting periods, and then the payable balances in the event corrections are submitted after the statement of account, but before the payment due date. And you can export this in XML or CVS, and then you're able to filter the transactions from the transaction history report. So what's changing from a payment standpoint? So as we talked about, deferred payments. So you'll have your release prior to payment privileges. You pay your duties and taxes owed at the post-release or at the end of the month for your goods. And you have the option to pay via online banking, debit or credit card, EDI, or pre-authorized debit on the portal. And before you make any payments, I just want to caution you that if you're going to suddenly decide that you're going to pay your statement of account at the end of the month, you need to advise your service provider, because they are generally making the payments on your behalf and billing you for that. And if you make a payment and they make a payment, it would be a duplicate payment. And then we have to get with CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, and CBSA and prove that it's a duplicate payment. So that can be very time consuming and cumbersome. So for if you wanted to do an online payment, it's for a credit card, it's actually $4,999.99. And that is per transaction. So let's say, for example, you owed, $12,000. You could make one payment for $4,999.99, and then the second payment for the difference. But you have to do it over 2 days. So if you're going to do that, you have to keep in mind the payment due date, because you don't want late accounting and then interest owing for anything that's overdue. So that's the option for the credit card. Online banking is unlimited, and that's really going through your bank, making the payment, selecting CBSA, and making that payment on a monthly basis. So I have more about that as well in the presentation. There's also electronic payment, which is the EDI, and that's unlimited as well. And then there's the pre-authorized debit, which is one time and ongoing, depending what option that you pick, and that's up to $100,000 a month. So the credit cards that are currently being accepted are Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. Pre-authorized debits are Visa debit and MasterCard debit. So if you're making a payment by credit card, you would go into the financial section, click on payment by credit card, and then you would enter the amount you would like to pay and make a payment. And you can only make a payment of less than $5,000 per transaction, as I mentioned. And obviously make sure that you check with your service provider before you make any large payments. If you want to do a test payment for $1, absolutely, you can do that. And then you'll know the time frame it takes for the payment to actually be made to CBSA. Pre-authorized debit. So that will take pre-authorized deductions from your bank account, and they will automatically take the funds from your account based on your statement of account balance. So you can set this up to be either ongoing or one time. Obviously, if you do it ongoing, CBSA will continue on a monthly basis to automatically withdraw that from your account. So just keep that in mind if you're setting up pre-authorized debit. And then obviously you need to make sure that you're completing the required fields in the banking information section. So online banking is currently offered by this list of banks that are listed. And there, as you can see, I know we've got some American NRI customers on here. There are some US banks as well that are listed, and you can make the bank payment through them. And again, I just want you to, when you're doing this, make sure you understand how long does it take your bank to make the payment to CBSA. If it's 2 days and the payment is due on the 31st, then you would need to make that payment on the 29th to CBSA. So keep that in mind as you're setting this up. So for online banking, when you make your, you just use your business number. That's very important. Make sure that it's correct. And then you add the correct recipient. You know, there's lots of different ways that CBSA is written. It's in French as well. So determine which one that that is there from your bank standpoint that you can make those payments. So some key takeaways for today. I strongly advise, if you haven't already, to register in CARM before the cutover period. Delegate access to your service provider, and assess your payment options. Determine how you're going to pay CBSA and work through those payment options. Make a test payment before the cutover period. Again, even if it's just $1, just to test it to make sure that it's working correctly. And if you have any questions about CARM or anything you're unsure of, you can email carminfo@ups.com for any questions, and we will get back to you. And I think now, Anne, we've got some questions.
Oh, yes. We've had a ton of questions coming in, thanks to the panelists who have been trying to keep up with them. But I do have a handful here that I'm just going to try to answer before the end of the call. The first one, what happens if I am not registered on the portal by May 13? Can I still import?
Hi, Ann. I'll take that one. So as of May 13th, if you're not registered on the portal, you can still import. However, you may be subject to late accounting fees from CBSA. Goods are required to be accounted for within 5 business days. CBSA will waive penalties during the outage, but because you're not registered before the cutover, it will take time to register after the cutover period, and the accounting document will be late. Next question.
Okay, thank you. Next one, do I have to get a bond if I import 1 to 3 times a year?
I'll take this one, Ann. So depending on your payout of your duties and taxes, you could also do a cash on account. But again, that would be 100% of your highest month. In this case, if you import 3 times a year, you would take the highest amount during that time, and then you would put a cash on account. As I said earlier, CBSA are looking at potentially a $5,000 bond, so that may be the avenue that you would want to go.
Okay, great, thank you. Next one, during the test period of payment, how do I make sure that my broker does not make the payment as well?
I'll take this one, Ann. So during the test period of a payment, what we recommend you do is you go online and maybe make a payment of just $1. That way to ensure that everything is working for you on the portal. You also want to check with your bank just to see how long it takes them to make the payments, how long it will take to apply to the CBSA account, because you don't want to receive any late payments or interest on the account if it takes your bank several days to do the transaction.
Gotcha, thank you. Next, does the importer see the same information in the portal for the CADs as the broker does?
I'll take this one, Ann. So it depends on really the delegation access that you've given the service provider. So if you've only given them restricted access, maybe to only the account or only the shipments that they've accounted for, they are unable to see your statement of account. They won't be able to see any other CBSA invoices or anything like that. But if they have full access, they're able to see everything, all the CADs that were submitted, including the statements of account and any CBSA invoices or anything like that.
Okay, great, thank you. Next one, how do I know which is a B3 or B2 if they are both replaced by the CAD?
I'll take this one, Ann. So the CAD, the Commercial Accounting Declaration, is replacing the B3 and the B2. So the original CAD submitted is going to be version 1, and subsequent corrections, adjustments are going to be version 2, 3, etc. So that way you'll know the difference.
Okay, perfect. And then the last one I think we're going to have time for today, how long will my CADs be available in the portal?
And I'll take this one, Ann. So CBSA haven't given any written guidelines as far as how long the information is going to be available in the portal. But as I mentioned before, it is not a means of record keeping. So any information that is in there, the CADs, your statement of account, anything that you want to pull, you should pull that and put it on your own shared drive for your business, so that from a record keeping standpoint, you have all the information and it's there in a secure place.
Great, thank you. Okay, well, this brings us to the end. Thank you, Kathleen and Penny. This was a very informative update. I'm sure there's lots of questions that we've missed. We will be sure to get back and have someone follow up with you after the webinar. UPS is always happy to help with your journey with CARM and trade compliance issues. So if you would like follow-up, please complete the short survey at the end of the webinar, and we will have someone follow up with you. I want to thank you all for joining us today, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.